everybody, welcome to your horoscopes for this week. These are the horoscopes for the week ending November 12th, 2016. We're 2 weeks into November already. We're getting that much closer to the end of the year, if you can believe that, and it's total craziness. But we're going to go ahead and get right to the horoscopes to see what's going on this week, and we're going to start, as we always do, with Aries. Now, Uranus's placement in Aries right now, and unfortunately a placement in a T-square with Jupiter and Pluto, is unfortunately going to be an aspect that is going to be a pain in the butt, and it's not going to end anytime soon, I'm afraid, because these planets have just lined up. Pluto and Uranus are back in that squared position again. You guys had a nice little break from it. Unfortunately, it's back again for the rest of the year. And with Jupiter moving into opposition with Uranus and squared position with Pluto, it causes a T-square, which makes a small challenge a little bit of a bigger challenge, unfortunately. Now, the challenge that is going to be bringing to you this week, unfortunately, is a challenge that is probably all too familiar for you. I know it's all too familiar for everybody, and it's really a challenge around money and finances. Specifically dealing with the same old BS that you've dealt with in terms of your finances before. Either you're having trouble getting money, or you're having trouble keeping your hands on the money that you do get, or what have you. Well, this week, this challenge is coming to you to remind you that there are, of course, other ways of dealing with things. And the first thing that you want to look at, of course, is your own mindset. The Aries mindset that tends to come up every time, which is usually getting angry and frustrated over the situation, which is not something that's uncommon for fire signs at all, specifically for Aries. You've dealt with this frustration before. You certainly don't want to deal with it again. However, unless you change the way that you deal with the situation, nothing is going to change with the situation, unfortunately. So this week, it's time for you to look at this in a little bit of a different way. Face this challenge head on. Don't try and be angry and scare the challenge away, because that's not what's going to happen. The challenge is just going to get bigger, and it's going to make it even more difficult for you to face the challenge. Now that you have exhausted yourself getting angry, you still have to deal with the challenge. I mean, think about that. It happens over and over and over again. This time, let's face that challenge head on when it comes to this money situation. When you have this problem, the mind, of course, is brilliant, and you Rams are brilliant when it comes to problem solving or troubleshooting any challenge whatsoever. And you need that brilliance to really come out in order for you to be able to understand what you need to do to change the situation for yourself. So mindset is, of course, number one priority here in this particular problem that you're having right now. Now, it's not that you can't make money, and it's not that money isn't going to come to you, and it's not that if you run out of money in the bank account, you won't get any more. You need to figure out what it is that you need to do in order to rectify this situation. And if you can't rectify the situation because, hey, life throws you these things from time to time, then remember it's a temporary situation that is not going to last forever, and it may be a little bit uncomfortable right now, but next week, you never know. It just might be a heck of a lot better than it was before. So this week, it's all about that mindset. Face that challenge with courage and bravery, which is the Aries way, not necessarily frustration and anger, and see just how powerful you can be to fix this challenge. You guys have a great week with that. Taurus, this week is filled with big, brilliant ideas that are coming to you in all kinds of forms, and ideas for all kinds of different things. And this week, it's time for you to really focus on those ideas. Now, a lot of times ideas will come to us, things that, might seem like it would be a really cool thing, but our automatic reflex is to say to that idea, that would be a really good idea if only I had the time, the money, the brain, the whatever, right? You automatically put a kibosh on that idea immediately because you don't feel like you have what it takes in order to build that idea into something realistic. Well, this week is time to change that around completely. And instead of putting the kibosh on the idea right away, think about it. Write it down. Put it on your mirror. Put it in a place where you're going to look at it on a regular basis. And that means every single day. The more you look at that idea, the more you open your mind up to ideas that are going to help you achieve this idea and turn this idea into something realistic, rather than keeping it in a quote-unquote dream form. Now, there's always a way to work around things. So when it comes to things like not having the money and not having the time, you are completely in control over your schedule and how much time you really do have to focus on things. And as far as money is concerned, there's always ways around that. Either shortcuts to it, or you need money for supplies, but you might actually be able to get those supplies for cheaper somewhere else. And you can gradually build something rather than having to have the idea and manifest it into its complete form right then and there, which is the fixed sign way when you think about it. It's always good to celebrate your success, but it's not necessarily a lot of fun to do the process and actually build it. Well, for Tauruses, the earth fixed sign, that doing is really important. It's what gives you the energy to keep moving forward and to keep manifesting what it is that you want. So this week, pay attention to those ideas, write them down, and resist the urge to stop yourself immediately just because you don't think that you can do it. You never know what you can do until you actually try, and that is really the point for this week. So you guys have a great week with that. Gemini, this week is a great week to focus some time and some energy on the home, which is always an important thing. Now, for typical air elements or intellectual elements, or Geminis, if you will, because Geminis are, of course, an air element, they've got so many irons in the fire and so many different things that they would like to do in the home, but it usually becomes a back burner type thing. Whereas creating this space in your home is actually really important, especially for you Geminis, because you are focused on so many different things at one time that when you do come home, it needs to be your sanctuary. It needs to be a place where you can sit in the middle of this space and have complete silence on the outside. It helps to silence what's going on in here, and we all need that sometimes. So this week, it's really important to pay attention, not just pay attention, but to really focus on those changes that you want to make in the home. We're talking decorating. We're talking putting things together and creating a bit of a flow in your house that makes it the place that you go for that sanctuary. And if there's some things that you've been wanting to add to it or things you've been wanting to fix or change, now is the time to do it because the energy is right. And don't forget, the people in your house are there to help you with this. So make it a community effort. Make it a family effort. Make it it's family fun. We're going to decorate the house week or whatever it is, because of course you're going to have a lot more fun doing it, and so are they, and it's going to fuel you to want to do more and more and more, so that one idea turns into many different ideas, and pretty soon the entire household now has their very own sanctuary when they need to escape the real world. So you guys have a great week with that. Cancer, it's time for you guys to spend some time with those that you love, but very specific. It's time for you guys to incorporate those people into an already busy schedule. Now, for the typical Cancer, I'm pretty sure that these people are already incorporated into your schedule. I mean, Cancers are very... It's very important to them to take care of the people that they love, and they do very, very well, always. Those people are number one priority in their minds at all times. But when it comes to other things in your life that are priorities, you have to address those also, and can't let those that you love be the reason why you can't focus on other things that you want to do with your life, if that makes sense. That is one part of your life in many, many, many parts of your life that you are going to have. So this week, of course, you don't want to exclude the people that you love. You want to make sure that you incorporate the time with them into that schedule and incorporate fun time into that schedule. Now, frustrated Cancer is nothing to be messed with, let me tell you, okay? I know a few Cancers, and when they get stressed out and don't have fun, it can be kind of a nightmare to be around them. I have a Cancer rising, so I understand this too. So you have to incorporate this relaxation time, this fun time, this spending time with people that you love into that schedule. It creates a balance for you, and it also helps you to be able to allow yourself to focus on each important aspect of your life, because you had time set aside for all of those things. Therefore, you're also eliminating an excuse to not do one thing or another that you might have to do, but you don't want to. We all have those things too. So this week, when you're putting up your schedule for the week, remember, make sure that you schedule fun time with those that you love and incorporate that into your schedule. This will do a couple of things for you. It will allow you to balance out the work and play, which everybody needs to do, and make sure that you're not moving towards one thing or another. And of course, the other thing is, it just puts you in a great mindset so that when you do tackle the things that you don't want to do, you feel so good about the time that you've just spent and all the fun that you've had. It gives you a little bit of a boost to get those things done that you don't want to do. So you guys have a great week with that. Leos are going to be spending the next several weeks really focused on relationships, which is a good thing and a not so good thing. It really depends on the Leo and the situation, of course, that they're looking at. Now, if you're looking for a new relationship, this is a good energy towards finding that soulmate that you're looking for, which is a good thing. However, if you're currently in a relationship, it could also present some difficulties that you might have to deal with within that relationship. Now, honestly, anybody that goes into a relationship thinking, I'm going to be happy with this person and life is going to be perfect. Everything is going to be wonderful. And of course, it doesn't work this way. If you still think that it does, I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but it really doesn't work this way. True relationships are really difficult. It's two people living in two completely different ways, thinking two completely different, having two different perceptions, raised with different values, trying to figure out how to get along together in the same life. And it is not an easy thing. It's messy, it's ugly, it's very painful sometimes. Now, this week may, for those of you that are in a relationship currently, may be bringing up some of those situations where you're not getting along in those relationships. And those are very valuable tools in your relationship, if you can believe that or not, okay? I know, because I've had a relationship for a really long time, and it is not all roses, trust me. Everybody goes through their difficulties. The point is, do you tear each other apart because you're going through this difficulty, or do you come together and try and figure out a way to work around it together? Ultimately, that's the goal that we all strive for. But in the moment, our emotions get the better of us. We have to have our say. The ego takes over, and then it becomes a great big hot mess. This week is time for you to really focus on how that happens, what your reaction is when something like that happens. Are you emotionally reacting? Are you taking offense because you're emotionally reacting to it? Not necessarily hearing what the other person has to say. Now, it doesn't mean that what the other person is saying isn't valid, isn't wrong, isn't 1,000 other things. But when I counsel somebody in a relationship and I just have one person in that relationship in front of me, I always counsel them to look to themselves, look to how they're reacting, look to how you are communicating in this relationship. It's not saying that you're responsible and the other person isn't. But if you're playing the same game that they are, you can't expect any kind of results, and you can't expect them to change either. We are only here to change ourselves and nobody else. We don't have the power to do that. So this week, it's really important. When these things get tough, you need to focus on your reaction. If it's the same thing over and over again every time you guys get into this rut or get into this problem, then you really want to do this research on yourself, because you may not realize just how much you're owning this reaction and you're causing this reaction. And if you're not causing the reaction, well, then the best way to find out is, of course, to really pay attention and do some detailed search on how you're dealing with the situation. Trust me on this, it's not necessarily what people want to do when they're in this situation. But once you get into the situation, you do have some control over which way the situation goes. It could go to a point where you guys are fighting and screaming and throwing things at each other. It could go to a point where you guys sit down and have maybe kind of a heavy, but at least a conversation about what needs to be done. This way, the conversation about what needs to be done actually gets things done. Whereas the great big giant argument and throwing things at each other, you're not getting anything done. All you're doing is destroying yourselves. All you're doing is destroying yourselves and each other in the process. And that's going to get you nowhere. So this week, take that inventory of those relationships. Now, I'm not going to tell you that it's going to be fun, but it is necessary, because next time this happens, you'll know a better way to face this difficulty, and this is what relationship evolution is all about. So you guys have a great week with that. Virgo! Virgos are still taking a little bit of a break this week, or at least at the beginning of the week, but towards the end of the week, we do have a focus for you guys to focus on. And of course, it's the number one focus that everybody focuses on: money. Now, the Virgo way, of course, money is very important to Virgos. Money is security. Having money in the bank, you got a happy Virgo. You don't have money in the bank, you got a very unhappy Virgo. And the unhappy Virgo has a tendency to worry about where the money is coming from. Any Virgo has a tendency to worry about anything. And of course, Virgos aren't the only sign that worries, but they're the one that's known for it, for sure. Now, this week, when it comes to, when money starts to come up as being a focus, it could be a great focus, it could be a not so great focus, but basically it's very black and white. If you're getting money in, that's great, everybody's happy, let's go spend it and have a party. If you're not getting money in, you start to worry about how you're going to pay your bills and survive and, do all of those things that you need to do. Well, this week, why not just not worry about the money, okay? Now, I know how crazy that sounds. And I also know that most of the time when people tell me, or when I tell my clients, just don't worry about it, they look at me like, how am I not supposed to worry about it? I mean, it's part of our lives. We have been bred and raised to worry about these things. We watched our parents worry about it, and therefore we grew up, and now we're worrying about it. This week, give yourself an opportunity to shut the worry off, okay? And when I say shut the worry off, what I mean is you feel yourself start to worry about it. It's flipping around in your head, and you say stop. You just say stop, turn it off, and make yourself focus on something else instead. Is it going to come back and try and plague you again? Yes. So you have to make yourself stop again and focus on something else. This is how you eliminate a worry pattern. Now, there's two really good reasons why you want to do that. The first reason being that it's not good for your health at all. It causes anxiety issues, it causes stomach issues, it causes all kinds of horrible things inside the body. The other problem is, or the other thing that it helps eliminate, is when you worry about things, this is what you're putting out there. This is the energy you're putting out there. You're telling the universe, I don't trust you to do this for me. I don't trust you to help you, or I don't trust you to help me. I don't trust my guides to help me. I only trust my own ability to worry, which isn't actually getting you any money either. There's a difference between worrying about something and being proactive about making sure that you get it. They're two completely different things. Worry does nothing for you. Proactive does everything for you. It's not a magic pill, but it does work a lot better. So this week, start training your brain. Start learning how to stop worrying. Just because it's a Virgo thing doesn't mean that you Virgos can't overcome it, okay? Because everything in astrology, all of our negative traits are there to give us an opportunity to overcome them, not live them, not use them as an excuse, because that's just how we were born. So you guys have a great week with that. Libra, Jupiter in your sign, moving into T-squared position with Pluto and Uranus is definitely going to be a challenge for you guys, especially when it comes to the expansion of your bank account. Because Jupiter's focus right now is very much on money, and your ability to grow that money is going to be compromised just a little bit with this challenge. Now, unfortunately, like I've said before, nobody ever wants to hear about challenges. They want to hear that I'm going to get what I want and more, and everything is going to be hunky-dory. And if life was like that, oh, what fun it would be. Although I'm not exactly sure if we'd actually appreciate what we had because of it. This week, when you're trying to grow that money, the challenge is you're going to run into some old challenges, some money problems that you've been dealing with your whole life. And this challenge is coming up to remind you that if you do want growth monetarily, you have to let go of those old challenges because they're not going to help you at all, especially with Pluto's placement in this particular aspect. It's all about your inability to change. Pluto wants to change, and Pluto's position in the past is saying you need to change history in order for the future to change in this particular situation. So it doesn't mean that you're not going to get money. It doesn't mean that you can't grow or expand monetarily. But it does mean that you have to let go of some bad habits and some old mindsets in order to see your potential in doing this. Now, the other good thing is that Jupiter's aspects with Saturn are really positive when it comes to making money and growing money within your career. So it's not like money's not coming, but it's the difference between I don't have enough money and you got a set amount of money to saying, again, I don't have enough money when you've got twice as much money as you had before. Remember that in life, you have a tendency to raise your lifestyle to how much money you make. And therefore, if you do that, you will always be without money because you're always spending the money. And this is one of those old habits or old perceptions that this T-square is trying to remind you of. Change the way you handle your money and you can grow monetarily all you want to. So this week, don't look at the challenge as something that's getting in your way. Look at the challenge as something that is going to help you do better from here on out. Grow and expand your bank account. Grow and expand yourself in multiple different ways. And be powerful in your ability to make money. And do this by letting go of those things that aren't helping you do that anymore. So you guys have a great week with that. Scorpio, the Sun and Mercury in your sign, their aspects with Pluto and with Neptune this week remind you that you can be whatever you want to be, providing you're willing to let go of the old you. We're really focused on goals and dreams and different ideas and things that you want to accomplish this week. And in many cases, which happens with a lot of people, the bigger the goal, the more frightening it is, right? Now, of course, we all sit around and wish that we could be like those people who just get an idea and go, this is what I'm going to do, and they create it. Well, we can be just like those people. Those people don't think about whether or not they can fail. They just do it. They'll probably terrified on the inside, but it doesn't matter because they just do it. And they grow it and grow it and grow it, and they make it what it is, and then bam, there it is, it's all done, and then they've got another idea and they're working on that. Now, it would be lovely for everybody to be like this, but we're not. Some of us have to work a little bit harder to get past the fear of, am I going to be able to do this? Well, this week, it really is all about you and what you're capable of. And when it comes down to it, as we begin the week with the Sun and Mercury in trine with Neptune, they're pointing to it is all about you and what you're able to create. What are you willing to do in order to make this happen? Because that is really what it comes down to. And that person who just gets the idea and goes and does it, it's because they did it. They didn't think about doing it. They didn't worry about doing it. They didn't try and figure out how they could do it. They just did it. And that is exactly what you have to do. So this week, it really is all about what you're willing to put into your dreams. The more you put into them, the more you're going to get out of them. The more work goes into them, the more you're going to see them turn into a reality. And when it comes to little bumps on the road, the difference between that guy and you is whether or not you're going to let that bump stop you. So you guys have a great week with that. Sagittarius, Venus spends her last few days in your sign this week before she moves on over to Capricorn. But of course, as she does spend her last few days there this week, her aspects with the Sun and Mercury this week are very helpful for you, especially when it comes to your career. Now, Saturn in your sign is very focused on your career. And when we're talking about Saturn, we're talking about you know, really paying attention and really being focused to the details and what you're responsible for when it comes to growing this career. Now, Saturn is still squared with Neptune this week, although the good news is that aspect is going to be over by the end of this month. So yay, because it's been a pain in the rear for you guys this whole time. But it's time to focus on building your career. Now, when we're talking about Venus's placement and bringing that energy together with the Sun, Mercury, and Venus together, it's a very powerful boost of energy towards different ideas and the creative flow that goes into building those career dreams. When it comes to Saturn, on the other hand, Saturn's aspects with Jupiter are also very powerful, because we're talking about, when you're talking about a career, ultimately you're talking about making money. And Jupiter's placement in focused on money right now is very powerful, because you're looking at, of course, making money and expanding your bank account at the same time. So even though there's a little bit of a challenge there with Neptune, that square between Neptune and Saturn, which is kind of sort of making you feel like you can't be you during this process, everything else lines up and says, are you kidding me? Of course you can be you. In fact, it isn't going to be what you want it to be if you don't do it your way, because it really is at that point all about you. So you guys have a great week with that. Capricorn, with Pluto's placement in the T-square with Jupiter and Uranus this week and for the next several weeks, unfortunately, it's causing a bit of a challenge, as this aspect is a very challenging aspect, unfortunately. Now, this particular challenge is going to open up something very deep for you, unfortunately, as you feel like you're dealing with a situation that is not new news, unfortunately. This is a situation you've dealt with before, and it's really hitting your bank account this week. With Capricorns and money is a very important thing. You got to have money, and most Capricorns that I know really like to have money. They like to make it, they like to spend it, they like every aspect of money. But this week, these challenges are going to make it feel like maybe you don't quite have the security blanket financially that you would like to have. But this challenge is also helping you to understand where you are connecting security with money and how to kind of sort of break that cycle. The truth is that money is important. It's important to all of us. We need it in order to survive, in order to live, in order to have a roof over our heads and running water coming out of our faucets. But it's not the only thing in the world that we need. There's tons of other things too. So therefore, it can't be the only thing that you're focused on. Now, I'm not saying that you Capricorns are only focused on making money, but if you are mainly focused on making money and making sure that you have that money in the bank, this challenge is definitely for you, as it's going to bring those old feelings up, and it's going to force you to relive those old feelings so that you can understand them, not band-aid those feelings by having money in the bank, if that makes sense. Now, the good news also is that Pluto's aspects with the Sun and Neptune this week are fantastic, because they are really pointing you in the direction of making money and attaining your goals. So as you are doing these things, of course, you're making money, but you also might be dealing with a few little snafus, where money is needed and you just may not have it. In this particular case, of course, you want to find a way to work around that a little bit. So this week, a little bit of challenge, but it's not the whole world. The whole world's not going to fall down around your ears. Make sure, of course, that you're not acting or portraying like the whole world is falling down around your ears, because the truth is, it's just money. It comes, it goes. You want to open up that money door to allow that money to flow in, great. But you don't want to worry too much about when it's not there, because if it's not there today, it could be there tomorrow for sure. So you guys have a great week with that. Aquarius. It's been a really long time since Aquarians have had any planet influence over their signs at all other than the moon, but we are kicking off some time with the planets visiting us, which it could be a really good thing, and it could be not such a good thing. As this week, as a matter of fact, Mars moves on into Aquarius. Now, I say this could be a good thing or it could be a bad thing, depending on how you use Mars energy, because Mars energy is all about ambition. And you may find yourself feeling like you just have all this energy to go out and achieve those things that you've been wanting to achieve. And this is going to be really helpful if you haven't had that energy up until now. On the flip side, though, Mars energy can be rather aggressive. So if there's anything going on around you that's frustrating, you just might want to get ready to blow your top a little bit, which is not a bad thing, actually, when you think about it, okay? Anger and somebody who's constantly angry all the time, that's a bad thing. You're allowing that anger to literally rule your life. But when it comes to a point where normally you don't lose your temper over things and you just get to a point where you can't take it anymore and you explode, that explosion is needed sometimes, because if you don't lose your temper every now and then, you're suppressing it. And the more you suppress that anger, the more it eats you up inside and the more it rules the outcome of everything that you're doing. It causes a lot of problems and just all kinds of stuff that you don't want to deal with. So this week, as we welcome aggressive Mars into the sign of Aquarius this week, it's good to focus on his positive traits. That ambition, that energy, that drive to create and do those things that you want to do. And as he's lining up with the Sun and Mercury this week also, it's all about your dreams and goals. And that's and this aspect between these planets is what's pointing you in the direction that you want to be focused on, those particular goals. Remember, though, Mars' position is very much in an old place, and it's really pulling those old feelings out. This is where the aggression comes from, when you've been looking at or focused on certain goals that you haven't met yet. Don't let this be what stops you from moving forward with your current goals. Just because you didn't get anywhere last time doesn't mean that you're not going to get anywhere this time. So this week, use Mars energy wisely, because we're going to have him there for at least the next month or so, and we want to be able to use that energy for the greater good, because that's what Aquarius is all about. So you guys have a great week with that. And finally, Pisces, as Neptune continues that squared position with Saturn just for a couple more weeks, I promise it's over by the end of this month, that squared position is still going to be a little bit of a pain in the rear, as the aspect itself kind of has you feeling like you're really focused on career goals, and you're really focused on, building that career, but you have those feelings like you just can't do it. Something always comes up, or you screw it up in some way, or somebody comes through to screw it up for you. It's kind of like that Murphy's Law thing. It's just always the way. I know a few Pisces that have a tendency to say this. Of course it didn't work out because I wanted it, kind of a thing. This is what this aspect is all about. And of course this aspect is here to teach you that it doesn't need to be that way. The first step, of course, in recovery from that feeling and from putting yourself in that situation is to not go there at all in the first place. Now, if you happen to be one of those Pisces that goes through this, your first reaction is going to be, of course this is what happened, this is what always happens. So the first thing that you want to do is to stop doing that, period. Stop saying it. When you feel it coming out of your mouth, you need to stop it and pull it back in and go, no, I'm not going to put that energy out into this situation today. Now, Neptune's grand sextile with the Sun and Pluto is really helpful through this aspect too, because Pluto's position is in old internal stuff, and this is really helping you to break an old pattern that's been getting in your way over and over and over again. Now, once you break the pattern, you also create a different result from what it is that you're doing. And not only do you create different results, but you act differently. You put different energy into it. I mean, the possibilities are endless in terms of how the situation itself changes, because you're not reacting to it in the exact same way over and over again. So this week, I know it's easy just to fall into your old patterns and your old habits and your old ways of dealing with situations. This is what we human beings, how we stop ourselves from growing over and over and over again, is by simply continuing to do the same thing we've always done. But this week, take the challenge and react in a different way. Put a different energy into it. Don't let yourself go there. That whole feeling of failure doesn't have to happen. because you have control over it. And the minute you realize that you have control over it is the minute that everything changes. And what you want to do is change, not change the game, but change how you play it. So you guys have a great week with that. Thanks so much for watching the horoscopes for this week. I'm Melissa Bruce, the Heavy Metal Psychic. Don't forget, 13 card tarot for 2017. I have sent out some amazing readings so far already. These readings get better and better every single year. The accuracy of them just gets better and better every single year. And you don't want to miss out on getting yours. Now, I have several clients who get this reading. They do not go into the year without the reading because it helps them navigate through the year, and it really, knowing when the challenges are coming and how to navigate through them really helps your success rate in getting through the year and getting through the challenges. So make sure you get those orders in and email me or go to my website to get that order in, because you've only got until December 31st at midnight Pacific time to get those orders in before they're gone until 2018. So don't forget. Again, I'm Melissa Bruce, the Heavy Metal Psychic. Thank you so much for watching the horoscopes this week, and I will see you next week. Have a great week, everybody.